For the average gamer, they probably don't really care if Xbox is outselling PlayStation, if PlayStation is outselling Xbox, if Switch is the most powerful or the weakest. Honestly, that is more of a hardcore argument, and you can make the case that the hardcore are the most important, especially at the launch of a console, but after a year or two, it starts to become not as important. But what I will say is, whether you're hardcore or not, the fact remains that consoles, anything in life, has to sell well if you want that thing to continue on. If you want to see a sequel to that movie, a sequel to that game, if you want to see an artist or a musician continue making music, they have to sell well, they have to do well. And I think that that's really what it comes down to. Now, Microsoft go on this tangent often, and I hate the fact that they do this with a passion. I hate it. Arrgh. But, what they do is they say, well, we don't really care if we sell you an Xbox. It's a corporate line because they do care if they sell you an Xbox, because the majority of their Game Pass subscriptions are from people on an Xbox, right? So it's kind of unfortunate that they say that all the time, because people are like, oh, well, it's useless or whatever. Listen, they're going to try to get people to subscribe to Game Pass any means necessary. PC, I'm sure there's, a decent size on PC. But, a lot of us, like myself, I have Ultimate, which includes PC Game Pass. So honestly, when I look at like something like Xbox, and now they're doing the thing where they're going to have a dongle eventually, and you can stream through a phone or a tablet or whatever, a TV. Like, I don't look at that as game changing. I look at that as the people that I see playing that way are people that buy an Xbox or have a PC, and they use that as a means to play when they're at work or they're traveling or whatever, right? They're not new customers. I find it probably a very minute, small amount of people are actually paying $180 a year to access hardcore games to play on a little 5-inch screen. They're probably not doing that. But at the same time, Xbox sales have really been picking up. The Xbox brand itself is doing much better than it has in a very long time. In fact, ever, if you want to get technical about it. And we're going to continue to see that happen. That's going to continue to be the case. Now, Microsoft has to keep the pressure on Sony. They have to start releasing games. First of all, this is the funny part. Microsoft basically sells out of all the Xbox Series X's as soon as they're there. The Series S's tend to be available more often. But imagine if they had a steady release of games, which they have not had so far this generation. But what happens when that does start to happen? What happens? Exactly right. We know what happens. It's going to be, Xbox selling even better. And we already know that Xbox Series X and S has sold better than any previous Xbox, because the previous record holder was the Xbox One at over 12 million within the first year. And we know that, according to Phil Spencer, Series X and S has actually eclipsed that within the first year, and many places have them at 15, 16 million, which is by far the most amount. Now, by year 3 or so, I think, that was when the Xbox 360 really saw an uptick in console sales, and that was thanks to Halo 3. I mean, Gears of War came out obviously a year after launch, but continued to grow in popularity and things like that. But this news right here is more in line with what Xbox should be focusing in. I love to see this. There's going to be a lot of excuses. I know it's not 100% a clear win for them, but I love the fact that it's happening regardless. It's still a win. So let's get into it. Microsoft has come a long way. The Xbox Series X and S are doing better than ever, and clearly that doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. Now, when it comes to this piece of news right here, it's very interesting to me personally, because it's something that has literally only happened a couple of times, and it's happened now twice in a couple month period. Xbox has outsold PlayStation in Japan, even with stock shortages. The Series X and S sales were more than double that of PlayStation 5. According to sales data published by Famitsu, the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S sold more than double the PlayStation 5. Basically, the PlayStation 5 was hampered and only sold 664 digital-only consoles. Rather than suggesting the Xbox is dominant, however, the figures simply show that there is a stock shortage. With that being said, it's still a huge difference in what used to happen, as the Xbox Series X and S has really jumped ahead of what the Xbox One was doing in Japan. This week's accomplishment also does little for the overall sales picture in Japan, however, as there's over 1 million PlayStations sold, and there is only almost 250,000 Xbox consoles sold so far. So there is still a little bit of a disparity there. However, it does indicate that there is a huge difference in Sony's frequent PS5 stock shortages in their home country. This week marked the second time this generation that Xbox outperformed PlayStation in Japan. In 1 week long period last month, the Series S sold much more by itself than the PS5 and the PS5 Digital combined. Before that, the last time Xbox had outsold PlayStation in Japan was back in 2014 when the Xbox One launched. Although, as noted, stock limitations play a significant part in these figures, such still is a notable news given Xbox's traditionally poor sales in Japan. As of February this year, only 2.3 million Xbox consoles have ever been sold in Japan since the original was released 20 years ago, and most of these were Xbox 360 sales, which were 1.6 million. Despite all of this, the Nintendo Switch continues to be the dominant system by a wide margin. This week alone, the Switch and the Switch Lite and the OLED combined and sold more than 50,000 units, more than 5 times which Xbox and PlayStation did combined. On top of this, 20 games in the Japanese top 20 were Switch titles. All 20 games in the top 20 were. In total, more than 25 million Switch systems have been sold in Japan since the console's launch. It's an incredible feat, to be sure. But I have to say, it still does me good to see that, the Series X and S are doing well. They're doing better than the Xbox One did, that's for sure. And I think that makes, Microsoft happy. I think it makes fans happy. I don't think it's okay. Like, I'm not going to sit there and brag. I'm not going to go, oh man, they absolutely killed Sony in Japan, because we know that there's stock shortages and things like that. But the fact of the matter is, even with stock shortages, we're going to, we wouldn't see Xbox beat PlayStation if this were the Xbox One generation. Because let's just be real, Xbox One, pretty much sold like crap there. You know what I mean? The Xbox 360 did well, but again, Microsoft had a lot of content that was specifically geared towards that audience, including stuff like Blue Dragon, and they also were getting Final Fantasy for the first time on the box, and it was just the fact that the Xbox launched ahead of the PS3, and they really did stuff like Lost Odyssey. They did a lot of JRPGs, Tales of Vesperia and things like that. So if they ever decide to take it seriously again, which they could, I think they could definitely do well there. I doubt that they're going to do Switch numbers or anything like that, but it is nice to see them actually do well and people be excited for the future of Xbox just worldwide. I think anywhere that it can do better than it was is a win for Microsoft, right? So I'd rather sell 10 of something than 5 of something or 1 of something, right? That's got to be the way Microsoft is looking at it. With that being said, if you guys do enjoy my content, please leave a like on the video. It helps it to be seen and it helps the channel to grow. It's very important, and it keeps me spurning on. I keep going and going and going and going, and it's thanks to you guys. So, rack 'em up, fact 'em up, crap gamer 'em up. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Crap gamer out.